Thank you. So there's just something about being single for the holidays that really fucks you up. And I don't know what it is. Some people call it the cuffing season. I say it's science. But as someone who's perpetually single every year for the holidays and who's closed out plenty of dive bars around the world on Christmas Eve, I can tell you, you're not going to find anyone who's happy with their life drinking alone on Christmas Eve. And if they're still at the bar when the house lights come on, they're probably DTF. Thanksgiving might be the biggest bar night of the year, but I'll tell you, Christmas Eve is the biggest depression-fueled, awkward one-night stand night of the year. So my whole life is kind of like an unpoetic and unromantic version of a Tom Waits song, which is kind of appropriate because my own favorite Christmas story bears a lot of similarities to my favorite Tom Waits Christmas song. And since he only has one, if you're a fan, the ending's kind of spoiled here. But back on Christmas Eve someone gets it, back in Christmas Eve in 2009, I was living in Austin, Texas, and things weren't going very good. I was about a week away from being homeless and living out of the back of my car. I was away from home, which just made it so much worse to have no friends or family. And just the idea of drinking my sorrows away in some sad, dirty old man bar was just more than I could bear. So I posted a personal ad on Craigslist. And somehow, miraculously, I got a response. And she was incredibly attractive, like suspiciously attractive. Her pictures were like slightly risque, like nothing pornographic, but just kind of inappropriate. But we shared Facebook profiles, and she turned out to be real, and she was a circus performer. And I thought that maybe was made the pictures made more sense. And this was Austin, and Austin is weird, and I like weird. So I went along with it, and we agreed to meet up when she got off of her shift at work. And I chose a really great jazz bar called the Elephant Room. So the first thing was that, like, she was 3 hours late, and so our 9 p.m. date turned into a midnight rendezvous. After the first hour, I assumed that I was being stood up, but we all know what they say about making assumptions. The second thing is she came in wearing this giant puffy jacket that was down to her knees. This is Austin. They don't have real winters. It was like not that cold for that. She like really smelled of cigarettes and candy scented perfume. She had glitter in her hair and all over her face. And she had 6-inch stilettos. And so I'm trying not to make any more assumptions. She kept throwing innuendos about her job. And I was starting to get worried that maybe I was being worked, like maybe I was a John on this date and I didn't even know it. And the third thing was she was just really openly hostile and rude and combative. So after about a half hour, I decided that I was going to leave. Like, it was just better to go off and drink alone. And so as I left, she grabbed my arm, asked me to stay, and gave me this really heartfelt apology. And then she bought me a drink. She got me like this $30 cocktail that she paid for with like single bills from like a wad this thick. And then she opened up and she told me how she had moved to Austin to work with this alternative circus troupe, but her life went to shit, and now she was stuck working at some seedy strip club. And I told her how I moved to Austin for this stupid unpaid internship, and my life went to shit, and I was about to be homeless. And then the night took like a 180, and we had a wonderful time getting hammered, sharing stories, comparing scars, and laughing over our woes, and it was a wonderful night. So then she invited me back to her place, and we drove separately. I followed her. Don't worry, everyone drives drunk in Texas. The lanes are like 4 times wider out there to compensate for this. She didn't live in Austin. She was like 45 minutes outside of Austin in like bumblefuck Central Texas, where everyone carries machine guns and supports Trump. And we pulled into this cul-de-sac of hideous brand new McMansions, so new that they weren't even finished being built yet. The guy who owned the strip club where she danced owned the development, and he was housing a bunch of the dancers in there while he was still building it. Those women weren't there. They were away on holiday. So I go in, and it's all like bare drywall, exposed plumbing, cardboard boxes with blankets for beds, bongs, pipes, tie-dye blankets on the walls, and these 2 long silk robes that were rigged on a hook system up on the ceiling. And at one point, she demonstrated her aerialist abilities while I stood there thinking, oh, this is the best fucking Christmas ever. And we got stoned and we watched cartoons. She showed me some amateur lesbian pornography she had starred in, and the night went to pretty much exactly where you think it went. The next morning, or late afternoon, I should say, we woke up, we drove around looking for a diner. This being Texas, everywhere was closed, so we had to settle on sushi. And again, this being Texas, I think they gave us barbecue sauce instead of fucking wasabi. But it was a fine meal. Afterwards, we saw Avatar 3D in the IMAX, and it was a pretty damn fine Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And when I took her home, we parted, we smiled, we hugged. We both knew that we were never going to see each other again. But as far as depression-fueled one-night stands go, this was actually pretty great. And my favorite part of this is that, like, for every year, for like the following 6 Christmases, up until she got married, we wrote each other Christmas cards, just saying, hey, I was thinking about you, and, you know, things are still hard, but I hope you're in a better place this year than when I met you. I don't get those Christmas cards anymore, but it really meant a lot to me. But then again, I have a lot of happily married friends that are now perfectly miserable divorcees. So I'm hoping maybe in a couple years I'll get another Christmas card from her again. Thank you.